Keep the change, sir. I hope it helps brighten your day." The words were soft, almost apologetic, as the young woman pressed a crumpled $5 bill into the barista's hand before quickly gathering her laptop and worn messenger bag. Sterling Caldwell looked up from counting his own wallet, empty except for a forgotten gift card that had apparently expired, and watched the college student disappear through the cafe door, her second-hand coat flapping in the November wind. "Wait!" he called out, but she was already gone, leaving behind only the faint scent of lavender and the echo of unexpected kindness. The barista, a teenager with kind eyes, slid a coffee across the counter. "She paid for yours too, sir. Said everyone deserves a warm drink on a cold morning." She hesitated, then added quietly, "She comes in here sometimes, always polite, always tips even though I know she's counting pennies. Today she bought a small black coffee for herself and paid for yours, a large caramel macchiato. That was probably her lunch money." Sterling stood frozen, the expensive coffee warm in his hands, shame and wonder warring in his chest. At 50 years old, he was the CEO of Caldwell Innovations, a tech company worth millions. He'd left his wallet in his office safe that morning, a careless oversight while rushing to a breakfast meeting that had been canceled. He'd stopped at this neighborhood cafe out of habit, not realizing his mistake until he'd reached the counter. And a broke college student had saved him from embarrassment with money she clearly couldn't spare. He sat down slowly, staring at the coffee as if it held answers. The last time someone had done something truly kind for him, expecting nothing in return, had been... he couldn't remember. His wife Miriam had died 4 years ago from cancer, and their son Landon, angry, distant Landon, had blamed Sterling for not being there enough during her final months. "You were always at the office, Dad, always, even when she was dying." The words still cut like fresh wounds. Landon was 28 now, living across the country, their phone calls brief and obligatory. Sterling had built an empire, but lost his family in the process. Success had cost him everything that mattered, and now he sat alone in a cafe, saved by the kindness of a stranger who had less than nothing. He asked the barista if she knew the young woman's name. "Thessaly," the barista said. "Thessaly Monroe. She's in grad school, I think. Studies late every night. She's really nice, even when she's clearly exhausted." Sterling nodded slowly, committing the name to memory. Thessaly Monroe. He would find a way to thank her. 3 days later, Sterling sat in his office reviewing interview schedules with his HR director, Corrine Whitfield, a sharp woman in her 40s who'd been with the company since its early days. "We have 5 candidates for the junior analyst position," Corrine explained, "all strong applicants. The last interview is at 2 o'clock. Thessaly Monroe." Sterling's head snapped up. "Thessaly Monroe? Are you certain?" Corrine raised an eyebrow. "Yes. Recent graduate, top of her class in data analytics. Excellent recommendations. Though," she paused, scanning the file, "there's a gap in her work history. 3 years. Her parents died in a car accident when she was 23, and it looks like she took time off to settle their affairs and work multiple jobs to pay off their medical debts before returning to finish her degree." Sterling's throat tightened. This young woman who'd been paid for a stranger's coffee with money she desperately needed had already survived more hardship than most people faced in a lifetime, and she'd still chosen kindness. "I'll conduct this interview personally," Sterling said quietly. Corrine blinked in surprise. "You? Sterling, you never conduct junior-level interviews." "I know, but I want to meet her." That afternoon, Thessaly Monroe walked into the conference room with carefully controlled nervousness evident in every movement. She was 26, with tired eyes that still held hope, dressed in a thrift store suit that had been meticulously pressed. She shook Sterling's hand with a firm grip, her resume trembling slightly in her other hand. Sterling gestured for her to sit, his heart heavy with recognition and respect. She didn't seem to recognize him from the cafe. He'd been wearing casual clothes that morning, his usual business armor absent. Now, in his suit and executive office, he was just another corporate figure across a desk. "Thank you for this opportunity, Mr. Caldwell," Thessaly began, her voice steady despite her obvious anxiety. "Caldwell Innovations has been my dream company since I started studying analytics. Your work in sustainable technology it's exactly the kind of work that matters, that makes a difference." They talked through her qualifications, her gap in employment, her goals. Thessaly was honest about the car accident, about the crushing medical bills her parents' inadequate insurance had left behind, about working 3 jobs while finishing her degree part-time. I know my timeline isn't traditional, but those years taught me things no classroom could. About prioritization, about resilience, about, she paused, choosing words carefully, about what really matters in life. Not just success for its own sake, but success that serves something larger. Sterling found himself leaning forward, genuinely engaged in a way he hadn't in months. What does matter, Ms. Monroe, in your view? Thessaly met his eyes directly. Connection, purpose, kindness. My mom used to say that at the end of our lives, nobody remembers who had the fanciest title or the biggest bank account. They remember who showed up, who cared, who made the hard days a little softer. Her voice caught slightly. She said that week before the accident. I think about it every day. The words struck Sterling like a physical blow. Miriam had said something similar near the end. Sterling, all your achievements won't keep you warm at night. Love does that. Presence does that. Don't forget. He'd been too consumed with work to truly hear her, and now she was gone, and Landon wouldn't speak to him, and he'd built a fortress of success around an empty heart. Sterling was quiet for a long moment, gathering himself. Then he said, Ms. Monroe, I need to tell you something. 3 days ago, you bought me a coffee at Morrow Street Cafe. I'd forgotten my wallet. You paid for a stranger's drink with money you needed. Thessaly's face flushed with recognition and embarrassment. I didn't realize that was you. I'm so sorry if I overstepped. Don't apologize, please. Sterling's voice was rough with emotion. You showed me something I'd forgotten. That kindness doesn't require abundance. That sometimes the people with the least give the most. That character isn't about what you have, but what you do with it. He paused, struggling. My wife died 4 years ago. Before she passed, she tried to tell me I was losing myself in work, that I was missing what mattered. I didn't listen. Now my son won't speak to me. He's right not to. I wasn't there when he needed me, when she needed me. Thessaly's eyes filled with tears. Mr. Caldwell, that coffee you bought me was the first time in 4 years someone did something kind without wanting anything from me. Do you understand how rare that is? How precious? Sterling stood, moving to the window, his back to her. I've spent decades building this company, thinking that's what defined me. That success and power and achievement were enough, but they're not. They're hollow, and I've been hollow right along with them. I don't think you're hollow, Thessaly said softly. Hollow people don't remember a small kindness. They don't care about a college student buying them coffee. You noticed. That means something inside you is still listening. Sterling turned to face her, and in that moment she looked impossibly young and impossibly wise at once. How did you stay kind after losing your parents, after all that struggle? Thessaly smiled sadly. Because being bitter wouldn't bring them back. Because kindness was what they taught me, and it's the only way I know to keep them alive. Every time I choose compassion over cynicism, every time I help someone, even when I'm exhausted, I'm honoring them. It's not always easy. Some days it's the hardest thing in the world, but it's the only thing that feels true. They sat in silence for a moment, 2 people separated by age and circumstance, but connected by loss and the search for meaning in its wake. Finally, Sterling spoke. You're hired, Ms. Monroe. But not just for your qualifications, though they're excellent, because I think you can teach me something this company needs, something I need, how to build something that matters for the right reasons. Thessaly's eyes widened. Mr. Caldwell, I couldn't. I mean, if this is because of the coffee, I didn't do it for... I know you didn't. That's exactly why you're the right person. Sterling managed a real smile for the first time in what felt like years. We'll discuss salary with HR, but I promise it will be fair, more than fair. You've earned it, and not because of one kind gesture, but because of everything that gesture revealed about who you are. Over the following months, Thessaly proved to be exactly what Caldwell Innovations needed. She worked with fierce dedication, but never forgot the human element behind the data. She started a company initiative to hire more non-traditional candidates, people with employment gaps, people who'd faced hardship, people who'd proven resilience in ways that didn't fit neat timelines. Sterling found himself mentoring her, and in the process, being mentored himself. She asked questions that made him reconsider long-held assumptions. She reminded him that employees were people, not resources. She suggested they sponsor scholarships for students dealing with family medical debt, turning her own hardship into hope for others. And slowly, Sterling began to change. One evening, 6 months after hiring Thessaly, Sterling found Sterling in the company break room late one evening, staring at the coffee maker. She poured herself a cup and sat beside him. "You did something good, didn't you?" she asked gently, reading his expression. "You look lighter." "I called my son. We talked, really talked, for the first time in years." Sterling turned to her. "It wouldn't have happened without you, you know." "I just brought you coffee, Mr. Caldwell." "No. You reminded me that the smallest acts of kindness can ripple outward in ways we never anticipate. You saved a stranger from embarrassment, which made him remember what it felt like to be a human being, not a title, which made him remember he has a son who needed a father, not a CEO. Sterling smiled. "You changed my life with a $5 coffee, Thessaly. How many people can say that?" Thessaly's eyes glistened. "My mom would have loved knowing that her philosophy went farther than just me, that kindness really does multiply. It does, and I'm going to spend whatever time I have left making sure it continues to." Sterling raised his coffee cup in a small toast, "To your mother's wisdom, and to you for living it." They sat together in comfortable silence, two people whose lives had intersected at exactly the right moment, proving that kindness is never wasted, that small gestures can heal wounds we didn't know existed, and sometimes the most important interviews happen before we ever walk into the conference room.
In the end, kindness is the truest currency we possess. It costs us little, but purchases the irreplaceable: connection, hope, and the reminder that we're all human together, stumbling through this life, occasionally carrying each other's burdens when our own hands are full. A broke college student paid for an executive's coffee and changed the trajectory of his life, not through grand gestures, but through simple, genuine care for another person's dignity. That's the magic of kindness. It doesn't require wealth or status. It requires only a willing heart and the courage to act when opportunities present themselves. And those ripples, they travel farther than we ever imagine, touching shores we'll never see, healing hearts we'll never know about, proving that who we are matters infinitely more than what we achieve. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Let's spread more stories of kindness and hope together.